First of all, Michael, this is my co-host and my brother in arms, Dustin.
Hey, Dustin, nice to meet you.
Great to meet
Jack
you.
at the Comic-Con.
Yeah, good memory.
I saw the pictures. You had the best mustache I've ever seen. And I've been trying to get Zach to grow one, and he's like, I don't want to grow one. And because he too would have this great Michael Pare like facial hair. So,
it takes many months for me to get a good mustache going.
Same here. Actually, maybe that's Dustin. You might be onto something. Actually,
there's a lot of work that goes into facial hair, and I think that's a lot of guys just get like overwhelmed or whatever. There's like, I don't want the trouble, but when you guys can grow, you can both grow beautiful mustaches, and that.
Well, look how thick your beard is. Why you're talking like you're not in the club?
I am in the club, but like if I shaved the beard and I just had the mustache, it would look like I had a windowless van. Like, come on, kids, come to the. You know what I mean? It wouldn't
windowless
look like,
van.
Yeah, like it would, you know what I mean? It's that creepy mustache. It's not the like I'm a man mustache. It's not the let's go have adventures together, ladies. It's like so. But anyway, but thank you for the. That's why I stick to the beard because I. But anyway,
I'm gonna let you go, Dustin.
I'm not here to talk about facial hair. I mean, I am.
So I gotta say, Michael, it is beyond a shadow of a doubt, like a true honor to have you on our show, $2 late fee. I may fanboy throughout this quite a bit. You are like an icon for sure, at least to me specifically. Case in point, I've got a bunch of, soundtracks and movies and whatnot from your films, from Eddie and the Cruisers on.
Dancing around his head right now. If you look,
Yeah, but how long have you had this relationship with Michael Beck?
So I met Michael Beck a couple years ago at a convention, and told him, I said, look, I'm this is before $2 late fee. I said, I want to do a show with my friend, kind of retro podcast. He goes, well, let me know when it comes on, and I'll see what my schedule is. Blah blah blah. And my gosh, I mean, watching you guys in Houston Nights back in the day.
Yeah, that was funny.
I love that show. It's a shame that it didn't go more than a couple seasons, but that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, television is very complex. When the people at the network change and the studio change, and they moved us like 3 times. From 10 o'clock to 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. It's like, come on, guys. How do you expect us to for our audience to follow us when you keep changing the day and the time?
Yeah.
But
and you guys did what, 30 some odd episodes of that show, right?
No, we did 44. We did 2 full seasons.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Jay Bernstein was a blast to be around. He's died, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, but he was a Hollywood icon. And when he called and said, Mike, we're going to do a series, it's going to be like Buford Pusser and Clint Eastwood. I said, I'm in, Jay.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. When you guys are both on the set, are you known as Pare and Beck to keep things not confusing?
Yeah. Because we're both Mike. Well, there were like 4 Michaels on the set. There was me and Mike Beck. There was Mike Winters. And then another Mike Winters was the gaffer. And there was another Mike in the electric department. So you could yell Mike and 4 people would turn their head.
Right. Not very helpful. Yeah.
Well, it's fun.
Well, I was a kindergarten teacher, and I had a lot of kids that had the same first name. One year I had 3 Lolas. So I had Lola, there was Lola left, and I called her Double L, and I had Lola B, and you could have been Mike P and Mike B. And
yeah. Well, like 95% of the time we were both in the same scene. So they just call the boys.
I love the fact that you mentioned Buford Pusser from Walking Tall and Dirty Harry in the same line there. I mean, talk about an underrated movie, Walking Tall, and that character specifically.
They made 2 or 3 of them, and then they remade it. I mean, I knew who it was right away.
Absolutely.
Joe Don Baker.
No doubt. King of badassery back in the day. So yeah, so you obviously had a good time on that show. And was that where your relationship with Michael started?
Yeah. I know he worked with Walter Hill first.
Yep.
And I got a funny story about that. I don't know if I told you when we met. But when I was working in Tavern on the Green, I lived on 101st Street between West End and Riverside. And I came home one night and there's a whole crowd, like on my street. And I said, what's going on here, guys? And they said, they're shooting a movie. And I said, what do you mean? They said, yeah, right down on Riverside Drive by the monument. And I go down there and yeah, they're shooting a movie, big production. And I'm in New York and I heard this story that if you are annoying enough, that somebody will come by and throw you 20, 50, depending on how big a problem and how big the budget is. They'll throw you some bucks if you just quiet down. So I'm standing on the curb and, I step up on the stoop and I said, hey, what are you doing in my neighborhood? And nobody says anything. And then they say action and everybody gets quiet. And I say it loud. What are you doing in my neighborhood? Cut. Someone comes over and says, you got to be quiet when we're rolling. I said, why? Said, because we're rolling. And I said, I don't care. This is my neighborhood. What are you doing in my neighborhood? And this guy comes up to me, David Sosna. David Sosna was the first AD. And he says, what's your problem, asshole? And I said, give me 20 bucks. And he says, is that it? You're going to shut up for that? And I said, yeah. Somebody reaches in his pocket and gives me 20 bucks. So like 4 years later, I'm on the set of Streets of Fire, which is also Walter Hill. And David Sosna is the first AD.
My God.
And the first day he comes up to me on the set and he says, 101st Street and Riverside Drive. And I said, yeah. And he goes, holy cow. So that was that's when I first became aware of Michael Beck, because I had to go see the movie,
Of course.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah. David Sosna was the first AD on Warriors and Streets of Fire. Anyway, so, I mean, we were like in the same circle of hell for a while there. And then here we do. We walk on the set and we have a lot of similar, a very similar background.
That's so wild. I've always been fascinated with your sort of acting origin story, because you were training you were a chef, correct?
Yeah. I was working at a restaurant on Columbus Avenue on 74th Street. I lived between 74th and Central Park West at the time. So I could walk to, it was right down the street from me. And my girlfriend was a waitress in a bar on like 67th and Columbus called Chip's Pub, which is no longer there, but the building is still there. So after I got off of work as a cook, I could go down to the bar where she worked and, and hang around until she got off like 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was right across from ABC where they did the news. So it was kind of a show business bar. The news guys, Roger Grimsby and Bill Butel would be in there a lot. And the Westies, the stagehands from Madison Square Garden used to hang out there and drink there. And there was an agent, Yvette Bickoff, who I still am in contact with. She lives out in Palm Springs. She sat down next to me one night and asked me what I was, what I was doing there. And I said, I'm Anita's boyfriend. I'm here every night. And she says, you're not a model or a dancer or anything like that? And I said, no, I work in Cafe Europa. So she said, why don't you act? And I said, because I went to cooking school. So she knew that I was hanging out there. So it took about 3 nights. And she said, finally, I think you should become an actor. And I said, sweetie, only waiters are actors. I'm a chef. And she said, well, listen, what I would like to do is have lunch with you. So I talked to Anita. I talked to my brother who lived in my old apartment, because I was now living with Anita. And he said, what the hell? You're already in the restaurant business. As a matter of fact, the chef of Cafe Europa had hooked me up with his brother, who had a restaurant in Marseille. So I had this opportunity as an American to go to Marseille and work in a French restaurant.
Nice.
And it was right at that time when I met Yvette, and I really had a big decision to make. So I asked my brother, and like I said, I already had a restaurant career ahead of me. I was good at what I did. I loved what I do, 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. And I wasn't stressing about it. I was happy. But she said, so we have lunch. And I said, listen, I'm not going to stop the restaurant business. So I don't have time to go to acting class. And she says, there's a class in Carnegie Hall with a guy named Robert Modica. You can go during the day, 2 days a week. And if you don't like it, you can walk away. And I said, I'm not going to pay for this. She said, no. Because she represented Robert Modica and she would send clients there.
Oh my
And
God.
so I studied with him for about 6 or 7 months. He taught the Meisner method, which was like, you might as well be speaking Greek to me. I was in the restaurant business. It was like, what the fuck is going on? But then she hooked me up with, and I liked the class. I liked it. The thing was, as a cook, all the waitresses were actresses and they didn't want to date a cook, right? But once I started studying acting, suddenly I was an actor, and these beautiful actresses that would, go out for a drink with me, and it was a whole nother world.
Yep.
So there was a lot of attraction to the entertainment industry. So anyway, I studied with Modica for like 7 months, and then she hooked me up with this other guy who taught pretty much the Strasberg method. And, it was got to be a lot of fun. And so now this is how I actually got on TV. So I'm going to class and I'm hearing this rumor that there's a star maker coming to New York, and she's doing this national tour, and she's casting for ABC's talent development program. And I wasn't quite sure what that meant, but everybody in class was, trying to figure out how to get in there. I called Yvette and I said, "You're going to get me in to see Joyce Selznick, right?" And she says, "Michael, every agent I know gets to send in 2 clients." And I said, "What about me?" And she says, "No, I haven't had any luck with you. I've got 2 other guys I'm sending in." So I followed a guy from class into the audition who had an audition, right? So I follow him in, and it's at the Laurent I think it's like on the 50s in Midtown. Beautiful hotel. There's another story about the Laurent. So anyway, I go in, and the hallway is full of actors, and they're sitting on the floor. And, as you get closer and closer to the actual hotel room where they're doing the meetings, so I walk all the way up there, and I see the sides, and I grab them, and I'm standing in the hallway like I belong there. And you're supposed to sign in when you get the sides, and I didn't. So I'm standing there with the sides, and this woman comes kind of hobbling out because she had a cane, and she comes walking out, and she looks at me, and I thought, oh, geez, I'm caught. And I thought she was going to say, "Who's your agent?" And she didn't. She just looked at me, and she walked back in to the main, to the hotel room, which was a suite. It wasn't like a studio, you know what I mean? It was a 3-bedroom suite because it was for ABC. And she comes back out and she says, "So what are you doing here?" And I said, "Auditioning." She said, "Who's your agent?" And I said, "Yvette Bickoff." And she goes, "Come with me."
Oh, shit.
And I thought, again, there was security.
Yeah.
He brings me into the suite, and she says, "Sit down." She says, "Do you know who I am?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry. Look." And she says, "I'm Joyce Selznick. I'm running this show. And you're going to come back in 2 weeks. We're going to put you on tape. And if this works out, I'm taking you to Hollywood." And I came back in 2 weeks. They shot a little thing on what was an enormous video camera at the time. And I got it. They gave me a contract for ABC's talent development program, which means they gave me $10,000 in cash, not in cash. They gave me a check for $10,000 and round trip first class ticket to Hollywood. And I got Greatest American Hero. That was part of the contract. I would be on Greatest American Hero.
That's unbelievable.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And Greatest American Hero, just, it was a successful show.
Yeah.
We were on Wednesdays at 8:00, prime time. The theme song was #1 in the United States for like 2 or 3 weeks. And Stephen Cannell, it was his first independent production. So, I mean, boom, he did Beretta. He did all of these shows. He had like 5 shows on at one time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I got really lucky. And from there, I did my first movie after the first season. And I went from being a supporting, like a small supporting role. Billy Katt was a special ed teacher. And me, Faye Grant, and Don Cervantes were like his 3 prime problem students. So, we had 1 or 2 lines per episode, but I had 17 out of 22 episodes for 2 seasons and made a lot of dough in my mind. It was a lot of dough at the time. And boom, I got my first movie and my career started. And now it's 2022. I came to Hollywood in 1980 and started working. So for 42 years, I've been a working actor.
Unreal.
That's-
Can we back up just for 1 second? Because
Yeah.
you said something amazing. So I just wanted your mindset for a minute. You're in class. Yvette's like, I'm not taking you. So she's not taking you.
No, she's representing me, but she couldn't get me the audition.
She's not getting the audition. So you're not getting. So what in your mind where you're like, I'm going to follow my buddy from class, and he knows you're not supposed to be there, or he doesn't know?
No, he doesn't know I'm following him.
You're literally following him, like you're behind him.
Yeah.
Like sneaking around corners. He's making a laugh.
No, well, I knew the address of the place.
Okay.
So it was like I thought I'd go and follow him in the elevator.
You're just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna follow him.
Yeah, what can they do? Throw me out? I mean,
Right.
so what?
That's
Yeah,
the worst.
They're gonna beat me up or something. Yeah.
Right. And then also your relationship with Yvette of like, what are you doing there? That you didn't even care about that.
Because once I got the deal, because they made the deal, when Selznick came out and said, I'm taking you to Hollywood.
Right.
I called Yvette and I said, I got it. And she said, oh my God, how did you do that? And I said, I forget the guy's name. He follows me on Facebook still, but anyway, he was like from Florida. He was like this, kind of like a hillbilly guy. I said, yeah, I followed Dirk, not Dirk, Ed Durkee or Dirk Edwards, something like that.
Oh my God.
And she says, did you say that I was your agent? I said, no, I didn't sign in. Because Selznick came out and talked to me personally. I didn't have, I jumped to the head of the line.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Somehow,
That's unreal.
Well done.
You hear these stories about being at the right place at the right time, but this was something that you wasn't even on your radar up until a certain point. And here you are getting on Greatest American Hero, and you're right, it was a hit show. I mean, you sing the bar or the jingle to that, and people
look at what
automatically
happened to me. Yeah, right. Yeah.
right. And you had a very distinctive look that was the complete opposite of William Katt. William Katt's this lanky, blonde, curly-haired kid, and you're this, hunky, dark-haired dude, Clark Gable-esque.
That's the name. That's what Gene called me, and
there you go.
Gary Cooper was Michael Beck.
There you go. Yeah. So you got this Clark Gable, like early Brando kind of.
Andy Laszlo was the DP.
Eddie Laszlo. Yeah, that's right.
Andy.
And here you come in and make this show. And was this what segued into Eddie and the Cruisers?
We were shooting the first or second episode of the second season of Greatest American Hero, and we did that down in St. Croix in the Caribbean.
Oh, nice.
And
nice
like I said, we worked 1 or 2 days per episode, and it's 7-day episode. So it's like 2 out of every 10 days we were on the set, usually. And so on the way back, we had a connecting flight through New York. So me and Don, we were like thick as thieves. We were having a lot of fun. I said, let's go see my bro, because he lived down the Lower East Side. We had like a week off. So we get off the plane, we go and hang out with my brother Terrence, who was a writer at the time. He was writing novels, and he finally got his doctorate from Columbia University in English literature. So, having actors around, we were welcome. It was a wonderful thing. And while I was there, my agent I called my manager, who was Selznick's partner before she died, and told her that we stopped in New York. She said, well, what are you doing there? And I said, it's hanging around. So my agent calls up and gets upset. He says, well, as long as you're there's a guy who wants to meet you. You got to go pick up the script. And it was Eddie and the Cruisers. So I picked up the script. I read it. I went in and met Marty. And that was the beginning of, where they were really considering me. And about, like a month later, they started making the deal. And the hiatus of the second season, which is like we shoot 13 episodes, and then you have a hiatus and you shoot 9 more. That hiatus is where we shot Eddie and the Cruisers 1. Went to Cherry Hill, New Jersey for 40 shooting days. And then it came back and finished Greatest American Hero.
Perfect.
Unbelievable. Did you have any like prior singing practice, or that must have been kind of challenging lip syncing these songs so effectively. I mean, personally watching you, I don't see, when I see you sing, I don't think of John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band. I think of Eddie and the Cruisers.
Well, you know, there was a lot involved. Helen Schneider, who played Joanne Carlino, when she came out to New Jersey, she brought her manager, husband, and her best friend, and they were like a real rock and roll band, it was like pre-punk, right? She was kind of like, she was a little bit like Joan Jett, and she just,
nice.
Anyway, she had toured Germany and had a great career as a rock and roller. She had released a few records in the United States, but her manager, lover, best friend, George Nasser, he saw that I didn't know what the fuck was going on, but he liked me, and hanging around with him, we put it together. We just put it together, but you know, it was a very risky thing. They were ready to fire me because they didn't know if I could do it, because they had never seen me try to do it.
Yeah,
we got all the way up to the night before it was the day before, so I had a full night and almost 24 hours from this thing. I get called to the set, and they're shooting the scene where Matthew Lawrence is like, you know, he's touring with the remnants of Eddie and the Cruisers, doing our old songs.
Yep.
And Matthew was best friends with Kenny Vance, who was from Jay and the Americans, a real doo-wop guy, right?
Yeah.
And him and he was coaching Matthew for his song. He had to do oldies but goodies and lip sync to that. So I get called to the set, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And Marty came up to me and he said, come here. And Tunes was with me, the saxophone player. And Tunes, you know, kind of ambles along, see what Marty's going to say. And Marty said, listen, we all know you're full of shit. You don't know what you're doing. Tomorrow is the day. And if you fuck up, you're fired.
Oh, man.
You're fired. And he's not saying it quiet like this. He's like throwing a fit. I don't know if his intention was to make me focus. I don't know what the fuck it was.
Great motivator.
But anyway,
thanks,
he says,
Dad.
we got someone back at the hotel ready to go on. So tomorrow is it, kid. If you fuck up, you're out. And I didn't. You know, I hit it. Bam. The click track started, and I hit every syllable, and it was so intense. I mean, first take, boom. There was silence after everybody quieted down because the crowd went wild and all that other shit. So Marty comes up to me. He says, well, kid, you did it. And I just shook my head. And then we did Dark Side for the rest of the day. For 10 hours I was doing that song. But hey, there was a lot of talent involved. Fred Murphy was a great cinematographer. Yep. Roger Deakins was the operator. I mean, there was talent there.
Come on.
And, they moved the camera. They lit me, And the funny thing is that first song, Dark Side, the guy who wrote the book that the movie's based on, P.F. Kluge, I think is his name, he wrote the lyrics to Dark Side. And that was the real hit, because Tender Years and Wild Summer Nights, they were released on I have the Streets of Fire 45. I have a 45 of John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band.
Yeah. And
that was released maybe 15 years before we did Eddie and the Cruisers, and it didn't go anywhere. It was like a local Rhode Island band.
Yeah.
So, it was one of those magical things, but there was a lot of magic involved.
There is a lot of magic.
Yeah, here it is. I did this student film there was one of the girls from acting class. And, it was just a little bullshit movie, like maybe 10 minutes. The cinematographer was, wanted to get in the movie business. But anyway, we shoot this thing, and she calls me up and says, would you like to have dinner? I said, yeah, sure. And she says, with Salvador Dalí? And I said, yeah, sure. And she says, do you know who Salvador Dalí is? And I said, no, who is he? Is he an agent? And she says, he's a famous painter. And I said, okay, where? And she said, the Laurent, the same hotel where I met George Souther. Right? But wait, this is the mystical part of it.
Is this
so
after?
She says,
is this after?
This is before. This is before. This is. I should have told this first. So anyway,
it's all good.
It says, be there at 7:30 because dinner's at 8:00. So I get there, and of course I'm a wise ass, and they say Dalí doesn't touch hands. I stick my hand. I said, hello, Dalí. Well, hello. And,
oh shit.
Yeah. So anyway, so his wife you know, it's a big table. It's in the lobby of the Laurent, and it's like a fucking circus. It's like a Fellini movie. And Gala Dolly, his wife, says, "You sit next to me." I said, "Okay." And she's you know, watching me, and we're talking all this other, you know, Mia Farrow was on my right and Gala Dolly was on my left. So she says, "Give me your hand." And I give her my hand, and she's looking at the lines in my hand. And she says, "You know I'm psychic." I said, "Yeah." Great, right?
Yeah. Right.
And she takes a flower off the table, and she's looking in my eyes, and she's doing this thing with the flower petals. And then she looked really deep in my eyes. And she says, "In 6 months, a woman is going to come into your life and you will become a national name." I said, "What does that mean?" And she says, I said, "Is it Vivian?" And she says, "No, it's not Vivian. Is it my?" She says, "I don't know who it is, but within 6 months, a woman's going to come into your life and make you a national name."
Whoa.
And less than like 3 months later, I meet Joy Selznick, and she puts me on Greatest American Hero.
That's insane.
God.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's
That's
wild.
magic.
Yeah,
That's
and
magic.
it happened at the Laurent twice. Gala Dolly and then Joy Selznick.
So now you're living at the Laurent and
Yeah, yeah.
Named the Laurent.
It would have been a hotel I would have liked to work at as a cook, because, you know, it was one of those very chic places where Dolly always stayed.
that's
So,
wild.
It would have been a great kitchen to me.
That's mind blowing. That's mind blowing.
It really is. And when you became this big name, was any part of you still like, well, but I really love cooking, and this
Well,
is...
I cook. You know, I cook all the time. No, what it was is I started to doubt myself, because it was like magical. You know, bing, bing, and suddenly I'm on TV, and then bing, Eddie and the Cruisers hits, and you know, it was, you know, they mobbed us a couple times. You know, I did a couple of talk shows, and there was a mob outside, and we had to be whisked away in a fucking limousine.
Wow.
So yeah, I started to doubt myself when I got to Streets of Fire, and they said this is a $26 million movie.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest budgets that Universal did at that time. I was like, holy God almighty. And Diane Lane, she had worked with Laurence Olivier. She was on Broadway when she was 12 years old. It was scary. I came back from Australia. I did this little artsy movie in Australia. I came back, and like 3 days later, they said, "You have a meeting at Warner Brothers." I think it was Warner Brothers. And it was at Universal.
Yeah.
And I meet Walter Hill, and Diane's not on the movie yet. It was between Diane and the girl from Splash.
Oh, Daryl Hannah.
Daryl, yeah. So she wasn't on yet, but there's Rick Moranis, there's you know, and Joel Silver, and I'm like, you know, I this little movie in Australia, Eddie and the Cruisers, I don't, anyway. So I was kind of overwhelmed, and I felt like they're going to figure out that I've been faking it all along. And so it was a scary time. But anyway, we shot the movie. It came out. They all jumped ship and went to 20th Century. So Universal said, you know, why are we going to promote this?
Oh.
You know, it was anyway. It was an interesting time. And here I am, all of 24 years old. When I got out to Hollywood, the actor strike happened. So I jump into a class, and after 2 months, you know, we start hearing that the strike is going to be over and get ready. We're going to start shooting the pilot, blah, 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 blah. So in the class, I went to the teacher, James Farentino, was teaching the class, right? And I said, "James, I got a job, and I'd like to get a coach, you know, for the scenes." And he goes, "What, do you got a scene?" And I said, "No, I got 9 scenes." He says, "What do you mean you got 9 scenes?" I said, "Yeah, it's for Stephen Cannell." And he says, all right. We'll talk about this later. And they didn't believe me. So I couldn't get coached by Milton Katselas, and it was the Milton Katselas Institute, and they wouldn't even let me into the working class. You know, it was like, no, you're still learning. You're a beginner. And dude, I got you know, a part in a Stephen Cannell pilot.
I'm on a show.
Yeah, I'm on a show, and they didn't believe it. So then, when the show's on the air, then I get the call from them and say, "Why didn't you come to me?" I said, "I did. You told me I wasn't ready to be coached." So I ended up going to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Pasadena, and I got prepared. And, you know, it It's a funny career, and I've had a great time, and I look forward to another, I don't know, 8 more years or so.
Yeah, no, your career has been absolutely amazing. You've been going this entire time.
Bruce Dern says that he's going to work until he's 100. I just worked with him like close to Christmas, just before Christmas, and we had done another movie. Like when we were shooting Houston Nights, on the hiatus of that, I went and shot a movie with Bruce in Arizona, and we became kind of buddies. He mentions me in his biography, and so I just worked with him, and now he's like probably 86, and he's still like, he's doing some great work. He got nominated for Nebraska, right? And he got the golden feather or whatever the fuck, golden fawn. So I mean, and it's like we had seen each other, yesterday. Hey, Bruce, Mike, hey, man, you know what I love about this guy? He's funny. Not only is he talented, he's very funny. Bruce, that's a big compliment from Bruce Dern, because he has a lot of fun.
Oh my God.
Think of his career, right?
Oh yeah. Epic. I mean, epic.
I asked him, I said, so how did you feel killing John Wayne? And he says, the Duke beat the hell out of me. And the thing, he was supposed to die when I shot him, and he refused. He wanted to crawl off and die by himself. And I said, that's kind of funny. He says, yeah, it's kind of funny to tell the story, but in the moment where he said, no, I'm not dying in the same frame as this guy. You got to know people personally to hear some of their best stories.
Right. I love that stuff. And did you have any of those moments where, like, obviously, you're growing up, you're watching all of these folks on the screen, and then you're suddenly working with them? Are you feeling like,
dude, I worked with Rod Steiger.
Yeah.
From On the Waterfront.
Yeah.
Insane. He was in one of the most famous scenes in American cinema. I Could Have Been a Contender. He was in that, he was playing Marlon Brando's brother. So to work with him, he played my dad, and he liked me. He gave me a little present at the end of the shoot. And I worked with Roy Scheider, from Jaws.
Of course.
French Connection. I worked with Malcolm McDowell. I worked with Dennis Hopper. Dennis Hopper and I got along really well. I worked with some major talent, Danny Aiello, Paul Sorvino, all those New York wise guys,
Yeah, so it's just got to feel quite surreal at that point where you're like,
no, man, it feels like this is, look, I've lived the dream. I've been really blessed, and I love my job. This is why I keep working. Is my general attitude is grateful to be employed in the entertainment industry. I like to be on time, even for auditions. I show up an hour early and I sit in the car. It's like, so many people have this dream of working as an actor, and if you don't appreciate it, I think you are. There's a lot of theories, but I think inspiration comes from, appreciation for the situation you're in. It's I get on the set, and the directors and I always get along because, sooner or later I say something like, they said, how do you learn all those lines? And I said, I do this for a living, man.
That's my job. Seriously.
It's my job. Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys bring me on to do 10 pages of dialogue, and you gotta treasure that, because you think of, because I studied for a long time, and I went to a lot of classes, and I saw all of these talented. I'm a member of the Actor Studio. You see all these people with all of this talent, and they're just dying to get on a set. And if you're not going to take advantage of that moment between action and cut, you're a loser.
I totally agree. Right. It's like opportunity, when opportunity meets preparation. It's like, or all the people that are just kind of like, almost like self-sabotaging or something, or it's.
Yeah. But you know what? I understand why, because it's like, it's the opportunity that, I've said this, I've taught a few classes, and I did a few seminars, and I said, every job you get could be the one, and you don't know which one it is that somebody's going to see. So here's another funny story. Not a funny story, but this is evidence of my theory about this. I do this little silly movie in Hoboken, New Jersey. The chief of police was a friend of mine, and he called me and said, Michael, I'm producing this movie. I would like you to play a cop.
Police of Hoboken?
Yeah. Tony Falco. He was the chief of police.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, all right, yeah, sure, Tony, I'll come out. So I have this scene with this really talented guy, Eric Edibari. He directed 2 movies. He directed a movie I did. I mean, since then. So we have this little scene where I'm the cop and I'm bring this guy in to question. We're looking for a murderer. And, the script said, we're going to go to jail and you're going to meet Bubba. You're going to get married. And I went to Tony. I said, Tony, come on, what would you really do? I mean, Eric is like 6'4". He's a bear. He's not afraid of getting raped, for one thing. Right? He says, Michael, what they're all afraid of is going back and having to finish their sentence. It has nothing to do with getting fear of being raped or beat up. They don't want to go to jail for 2 more years.
Yeah.
So I said, so what should I do? You bang his head on the table and you say, listen, I'm going to violate your parole and you'll go back and finish your sentence. Now, either you cooperate or that's exactly what's going to happen. So that's the scene, right? So Eric is in a basketball league here in California. And they play in Beverly Hills or in Brentwood or something. And it turns out there's a bunch of people in show. I mean, Eric was a real player, right? I mean, He played basketball in high school and college. So he was a good player. So there was a lot of people in the entertainment industry in this league. So I'm at home making dinner with my wife and my son, and the phone rings. And I said, you never know who's on the other line. So I'll pick it up, even if I really shouldn't, because I'm having dinner. I pick it up. He says, Michael. I said, yeah. He says, Michael Pare. I said, yeah. He said, this is Brad Furman. I just saw a video. Did you work with Eric Edibari? I said, yeah. And he says, I saw your video. He gave me your number. I'm doing Lincoln Lawyer. I want you to be in my movie. So every job could be the magic one. And I really believe in magic. Magic happens, man.
I do too. Magic.
And you don't know why it strikes and where it strikes or when, if it's going to strike. Here's another funny little story. So we're on the set of Streets of Fire, and it's really an action movie. And, I'm still trying to figure out, I want to be an artist. I want to be a great actor. And Walter's like, Michael, just be a tough guy, be a hero. Don't worry about this stuff. So there's a scene where we hijacked the school bus, right? And the school bus drives down the street, and I'm supposed to step out. And Walter says, we're going to bring in Jerry. Jerry was my stunt double. I said, let me do it. He says, Michael, an actor is driving the bus. I said, let me do it, Walter. And he goes, go ahead, step in front of the bus, Michael. So I do, but I hit just the right, my feet landed just the right space. And I put my hand on the hood of the bus, and it moves, and it looks like I stopped the bus with my bare hand. And it just was being in the right place. It was just like, bam. And it's like, you could not have set up, it would have taken a day to set up a shot like that. And it's, what's his name? Stoney Jackson.
Driving.
He's an actor driving the bus.
Yeah.
So if he had just, not put the foot on the clutch or something, it would have like knocked me down, or it would have made me look clumsy, but it made me look like Superman. And it's just magical stuff happens sometimes. And you have to be ready for that. And
and also to be able to be like, look, let me do it. Just let me do it. Because I feel like nowadays, right, insurance would be like crazy, and they would be like,
if Joel was there, he probably would have said, no, he's not doing that.
Yeah.
But Walter was like, go ahead, Michael. He liked that I would dare do that. Anyway, Walter was he was one of those guys who lived outside the box.
Yeah. And even having Stoney Jackson driving the bus seems a little like, right? Like, because today you probably would have a driver.
No, it would have been, we have to set up the shot with the stunt guy driving the bus, and the stunt guy, and you can only have, camera has to be here, and you can't see the driver's face. It would have been like a half a day production, and let me do it.
It would have been a bad scene. Let's just do it. I'm here. Let's get it.
Yeah.
Let's get it. No, that's true. Yeah, it's definitely resonates what you're saying about magic too. I'm a voice actor, and the first promo campaign I got was because I was playing pickup basketball, coincidentally, with the creative director from CBS. And it's that same kind of thing. It's like, but just also just being like organically, yourself. Like, you don't want anything. You're just like,
yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, just being you. You got a demo? Yes, I do. Yeah, great. Okay. you'll be great on this campaign. So I definitely believe in that as well. And one of the things our podcast always talks about is this gratitude, because I always feel, gratitude just general in life, but also like permeating through show business, where it's like, you're always hearing like, don't be a dick. And I'm like, why would anyone be a dick? Like, if you're doing what you love to do, and like, to your point about like, no, this is my job. Of course I'm going to memorize these lines. Yeah. And then you see the alternative, and you're like, okay, I see the point. I see why we don't want dicks.
Yeah. Well, I love my job. I really love it.
And when you love it, yeah. But it's also so fortunate that you love acting and show business as much as you loved cooking, for example.
Well, it's I haven't cooked commercially for a long time, but I cook a lot, and sometimes I think I should start. Over the pandemic, I was posting short videos and pictures of I perfected my French baguette, dumplings, and I'll post stuff like that. I would like to do that, make a serious run and do like 10 episodes of, because every time you get a big job, there's somebody who comes along and says, why don't you do a cookbook? And I would like to do that someday, but I don't know if it would be better to do the video or to publish the cookbook and then do the video, but I'll do that sooner or later.
Yeah, do it. I mean, I think either or, both.
Yep.
We live in a society now where like everybody's filming everything they do at all times.
Yeah, it's so strange, isn't it?
It's really wild. And just like how much you can go down this rabbit hole of social media, and then you're like, oh, I just lost 25 minutes somehow, and I've gained nothing.
Well, it depends what kind of social media you're watching. I watch a lot of ancient aliens and archaeology stuff and animal stuff and bushcraft stuff. It depends what you watch.
Yeah, I watch a lot of dog videos.
Yeah, me too.
And try and keep it positive. And I'm a terrible cook, but I enjoy watching other people. Michael, thank you so much for your time. It really has been an honor. We've loved having you here today. Wish you all much more continued success, and love watching.
All right, guys. Maybe I'll see you at one of these conventions.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Take care.
All right. Be well. Thank you.